Sometime in the summer of 65. Sounds like I'm talking about the Civil War, but I'm not. I mean, 1965, we would ride our bicycles around the neighborhood and sling our little transistor radios over the handlebar. And I would always hear advertisements come to sunny Waterford Park where the fun never ends. So I'm thinking it's an amusement park, cotton candy, stuff like that, roller coasters, games, boardwalk. Fast forward a couple of days, and my mom and dad are having breakfast. And back then, Waterford Park, now Mountaineer, ran in the afternoons. And so I hear my mom say to my dad, Pat, how's about we go down to Waterford this afternoon? So my ears perk up right away, and I say, do you mean sunny Waterford Park? So my killjoy sister, ever eager to end any possible fun for me, says, it's not what you think, little brat. It's not like Kennywood or Idora at all. It's just a bunch of dumb horses running around in circles. Well, mom and dad consented to take me anyway, and she was right. There was no cotton candy. There was no big top baby. There was no merry-go-round. There was something a whole lot better, something that transfixed me beyond belief and still does. Some 65 years later, I'm still obsessed with the pretty horses that run around in circles. And if you're with me tonight in the dungeon, I got to believe that you are too. So welcome. I call you a kindred spirit. My name is Mark Patterson. I think most of you guys know that. And I flipped over to YouTube, no longer do the Mountaineer feed from in-house. Been gone from there for a little bit more than a year now. Struggled around with my own website. Really didn't work from which to emanate my signal. It's too difficult to get on. I hope it's a lot easier for you guys to access me on YouTube. And if you've managed to do that, please like and subscribe. It does help me. We're officially, should I have a drum roll or something, past 250 subscribers. I'm shooting for 500 because at that point I can get paid, and I would appreciate all the help you guys could extend me. Welcome to the dungeon, the place in which we will share our deepest, darkest thoughts, memories, ambitions, and maybe handicap a few horse races too. I don't even like that word handicap. It sounds so stuffy. I'm going to handicap. You know what? I usually say just simply, I'm going to take a look to past performances. I'm going to glance them over and see what I can see. No big promises, huh? The Mountain Maine was negative rail, I thought, again last night. That's a trend that kicked in big time on Wednesday, with a very potent bias, and has continued to some degree or another ever since, even despite a couple of changes in the weather. Last night, virtually all the winners, with maybe the exception of one, Morning Boss, race buffered out from the inside by a rival or two around that all-important far turn. Up on the pace, you could win with a speed or a strong pusher, but you better be out from the inside with somebody between you and the dreaded rail. And obviously, we had some wine closers win as well, so that was what it took to win last night or to make money in those races. I don't know if it'll be in play tonight or not. I haven't even checked the track condition. I know that Mountain is off the turf tonight, which means no grass since the first race on Wednesday, last Wednesday. Is it the last turf race we witnessed? Yeah, No Age Bad Girl won it, right? I think. So let us go over and check on the track condition. Yeah, and my mom and dad, boy, they were so happy because they won. And I still remember to this day, it was 1965. And we're walking out down the same steps that are still there right now, the front steps, the front entrance. And mom and dad put their arms around me and hugged me and said, Marky's our good luck charm. He's coming with us every single time now because we made $50, which was a lot of money back in 1965, baby. So I had a ticket in the car anytime they went to the races, as long as I wasn't in school. And then I finally reached a point where they would let me skip school to go to the races with them. So I guess I'm lucky that they won 50 that day, or else I might not be here this day, correct? Yeah, maybe. The main track is fast, and we are off the turf. First race is starter allowance. He's a run for 5,000 or less last couple of years. It was lined up to go 7/8 on the lawn. Instead, put it on that fast Mountain Maine, and we only have 5 horses going to the post here. And obviously, these races, when they're supposed to go 7/8 and they flip over to 6, the focus shifts to speed very strongly. And your likeliest pace setter is also going to be the favorite. No question about that. Number 5, Stomping Moon. Stomping Moon with 3 wins this year. Stomping Moon's a workmanlike speed horse that goes out there and fights, 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 almost like Newt Rockney. It's like Newt Rockney gives his speech to Stomping Moon every time Stomping Moon runs. We're going to go out there and we're going to fight, fight, fight. That's what Stomping Moon does. Stomping Moon has tailed off just a little bit. Didn't fire at all time before last, which is not characteristic of Stomping Moon. That could be ominous for the simple reason that Stomping Moon has faced a starter some 23 times over the course of the last 2 years without any kind of a significant break. So at some point, Stomping Moon's going to be knocked out. Stomping Moon's most recent race, not a bad one though, was 13-1. A higher price than this consistent runner usually goes off at because that was a deep field. Now, Stomping Moon was a big part of the pace, did flash speed, but was outdueled by the eventual winner there, which you don't want to see, but the 67 Buyer really put Stomping Moon in a real good spot against this field. And Stomping Moon is a horse that almost always goes out and challenges for the lead or gets the lead at first call. Stomping Moon. I think the knock on Stomping Moon, aside from, and when a horse is going to be favored, you got to look at the pros and cons. You really do. It's part of your MO as a handicapper. And you got to look for scenarios and reasons that would bring about the defeat of any short-priced horse. And with Stomping Moon, I think those reasons, potential reasons, are pretty obvious. Stomping Moon, so many trips to the post over the last 2 years. And didn't fire time before last, which is unusual for Stomping Moon. And also, if the grain continues the way it has, Stomping Moon, who's going to inherit the rail very quickly from Ramsey, at least on paper, could find himself down where the going isn't quite as good. And the opposing speed, the potential other speed in there, Prairie Hawk, who's got a lot of route speed anyway, and has shown 7-8 speed also, maybe buffered out the better going, which would have been the case last night, would have been the case the night before, and certainly the case on Wednesday. So I can conjure up a couple of reasons for Stomping Moon to lose this, but it's pretty hard not to make Stomping Moon the likeliest winner here. And if either of these want the lead types are going to open on the other and get the better of the other, it seems like Stomping Moon, with that 6 furlong lick, with that 22-1 stuff last time, is probably quicker than Prairie Hawk, who needed a slow pitch pace to win there on July the 7th. That race was off the turf, and Prairie Hawk had the inside, and Prairie Hawk had nobody to go out there and even breathe on him. So the win was a little bit bogus. The outfit does well here, about 25%, Teresa Connolly. And Prairie Hawk, not just a route speed. Prairie Hawk has vied for the lead a few times in fairly fast-paced 7H races. So Prairie Hawk maybe goes out and challenges Stomping Moon down the backstretch at some point and could conceivably have the better footing. Could Prairie Hawk, but Prairie Hawk really didn't prove a lot last time and couldn't have been too impressive. I'm not going to knock the horse for doing what he had to win, but it didn't take a lot to win that race, given the slow pace and the good post and stuff like that. Prairie Hawk doesn't always break that well when he sprints, which might give Stomping Moon the advantage coming out of there. And Stomping Moon looks a little bit quicker anyway. But if Stomping Moon's over the top, you also want to remember that Stomping Moon, and some horses are like this. You can work out the fractions all you want for hours and hours and hours, but a horse like Stomping Moon, no matter how apparent his edge in early speed, just never opens any daylight. Thrives on drama, likes competition, insists on having somebody next to him throughout the entirety. And tonight that somebody could be Prairie Hawk. And if Prairie Hawk's got the better footing, well, that's another way to look at this. Let's say they hook heads. The two kickers in here are not slouches, as my dad used to say. Ramsey on the inside. Ramsey last time I know was in cheaper, 7,500 condition. And Tricky Tracky returned from that. Did not run so very well. But that was kind of an unusual setup. It really was speed friendly. It was extremely speed friendly. And Tricky Tracky was not even in good form. And I think was off the bench for that one. Went out and capitalized on very soft fractions there and an uncontested lead, which made it pretty tough for Ramsey to close much ground there. So that's a better than looked effort from Ramsey, who was in for a new low there, 75. The lowest claiming price in quite some time, I should say. And some of the other races are pretty good at Mahoning. The ups and downs in some of those events, but when he's good, he's pretty good. And if you're still capable of some of that Mahoney form, then he could win this. If the 5 and the 10 knock heads, but if the grain, if the bias on the Mountain Main is the way it has been for the last couple of race cards, then Oliveras will have to get off the rail with Ramsey to have much of a chance. And then you have Unraptured on the outside, who's a real late mover, a stone cold closer, and a successful one at 6 furlongs. Is Unraptured is won his last one, and in his previous 6 furlong race was second by a neck. Now we got a ton of setup there on June the 9th, and that was a mere $5,000 condition race. So he's not real classy. Unraptured put up a better number last time, but again, things were kind of closer friendly with Buck and Dreamer out there in front, and several opponents trying Buck and Dreamer on for size between calls and stuff like that, which definitely set it up for Unraptured. Now, we have seen more than our share of wide ralliers win last couple of race cards, so don't be shocked if Unraptured pulls it off here, but I think that would require for the 5 and the 10 to go out there and knock heads, which is certainly possible. What's the first time you guys went to the races? With your parents, I would assume? Most of you guys are second-generation horse players like I am, right? Correct? It seems like almost everybody my age that bets horses was indoctrinated at a really young age. And I can still remember the first time that I went. The pageantry, the sights, the sounds, just the sense of anticipation in the air, like something important was going to happen. And it was important, and it's been important to me ever since. And we are 6-5 on Stomping Moon right now. I don't know if he can hold 6-5. Maybe, because you can give each of the other 3 a chance, some chance to win this. I don't think Unraptured would be quite this low at 3-1, given the fact that he might be just mildly outclassed if he and his 3 rivals all bring their A games. And his figures fall a little short of what some of his foes might put up here or have put up recently. But I think the grain of the track, the fact that we've seen more than our share of closers, wide closers win over the last couple of race cards, is kind of baked into his price point, and maybe knocking it down a little bit there at 3-1, huh? At 2 minutes to post on a fast Mountain Main. Good drainage on the Mountain Main. It dries out very quickly. For the record, it is, or at least it used to be, like 3 inches of fine grain river sand for the cushion on top of a clay and limestone base. When the great Steve Cawthon came here to ride for Tello Ed in a West Virginia Derby many, many years ago in a galaxy far, far away, he commented after the race, "This strip is weird. It's all rocky and it's all full of pebbles." Well, I think it's a little more sandy in consistency now, but maybe not a whole lot, because it is kind of a pebbly strain of fine grain river sand that makes up the cushion over that Mountain Main. And it is not a surface that freezes over in the wintertime, by the way, just to get off topic a little bit here. Like a highway that some cushions do. When the Mountain Main, and I should save this until December when it's going to mean something, but when the Mountain Main does its version of freezing, it just kind of clumps together a little bit. And sometimes it's hard for the horses to get purchase with their hooves, and some horses like the Mountain Main's version of frozen and some don't. And you see a lot of form reversals when the weather gets really cold and it gets that dry, real dry consistency. You can tell because it looks light in color when that happens. I am familiar with Mountaineers Main Track, folks, and coined the term Mountain Main, which I see that some other handicappers have copied, and that's okay, for sure. So I'm going to cut off the mic and go over and look at some of the double pays. Not real big on race number 2, but if I do bet the double, I'm going to use the 4 and the 7. I'm going to use the 4 and the 7 in race number 2 if I bet the double. She let a route horse get the lead in a race. I thought I clicked it on. My bad. And I'm getting the text there. Yeah, I got it now, guys. I thought I clicked it on, but I did not. Anyways, Prairie Hawk gets the lead, cutting back from distance of ground, so he's probably not going to get caught when that happens. Prairie Hawk and stomping. At least it hasn't been over the course of the last few race cards, and he's pinned right down in there. And also another possibility that I raised when I gave the worst case scenarios, possible reasons that he could lose. He's run so many times, 23 times, without seeing the sidelines. And at some point, he's knocked out. And it was a little ominous how he didn't fire at all time before last. The normally consistent stomping moon. So I don't think he really came to fire or with much running on his mind tonight. And he was bogged down in the worst part of the racetrack, anyways. Pity poor Ramsey, who for the second time in a row gets no help at all with the setup and closes stoutly at a route horse who was well in front and dictating the tempo out there. The same scenario last time for Ramsey as Tricky Tracky was unchallenged in front and had a lot left, too much for Ramsey to close and catch. If Ramsey ever does get some kind of a speed fight, look out. His kick's going to prove lethal. So I'm putting up some of your stories about the first time you guys went to the races. And there was George W890. Okay, I'm going to look old here. In the late 1970s, Roosevelt Raceway put down a rubber base and covered it with a thin layer of dirt of some kind. Horsemen loved it. It worked out well. And then my man Ace says, I went with my dad at about 7 years old. Yeah, I was 8 first time I went. Went many, many times and loved everything about it. I returned to Thistledown. My dad took me to Old Randall. Is Old Randall before your time? I was across the street from Thistledown. My dad loved Randall, hated Thistle. I returned to Thistledown about 12 years later and groomed briefly for Joe Schumann. I walked some hods, a lot of hods, when I was 16, 17 years old and stuff like that. Back in those days, the days you're talking about, anything that shipped from Thistledown to Waterford Park would win automatically. Thistledown was like so far above Waterford Park. Didn't matter how lousy the form was. Just, a new face, because the Waterford Park action, now Mountaineer, you guys know that, was so self-contained. It was this little island of untouchable horses, broken toys unto itself. So when any new shooter came to town, it was cost, get to the windows and bet your money. And Thistledown intruders were the most numerous, for sure. Second race was also supposed to be 7/8. Instead, make it 6 furlongs on that fast mountain main that just saw a race wired, but wired by a very strong horse who was pretty much unchallenged out for the lead and who broke from a wideish post. Number 2, Lifers, 15,000 claiming Butterfly Effect. Can't say much about that one. Imprudent, the 2, was claimed for 20 at Keeneland and vied for the lead and had the lead at the pre-stretch call there. So is supposed to walk into Ohio and win, and in fact was heavily favored to do that. Settles for third, comes here, did not take to the turf, and seemed to show some turf aptitude in debut there. So I thought it was a little bit puzzling this horse didn't run better on grass at 3-2 on May the 31st, but Imprudent comes back and runs the kind of Beyer fig this field can't touch. But that was unchallenged on the lead at a round of ground, and this is different. Imprudent would have to display some sprint speed to get early command of this race. Maybe wouldn't take a lot of sprint speed to do that, but that might be what Imprudent needs to do to win. And Imprudent breaks disturbingly close to the inside, too, with the other 2 possible pace participants, Buxtitude, and even Intelligent, who woke up last time with some speed that he'd never shown before. And that's really what Demza gets out of her horses, especially with Barrios up. So there are possibilities, too, and either or both could conceivably hold Imprudence feet to the fire down along the inside. You guys get tired of me talking about the bias and the grain. I picked up on this Wednesday. I've been spouting it ever since because I want to see you guys win. And if you have been listening to all my bias talk, then I think you've improved your chances because I picked up on it real quickly on Wednesday, and at least towards the end of the card on Wednesday. And it has been largely the story ever since. Now, we've only seen one race tonight, and the track is full cycle dry, whereas it was sloppy yesterday. But after watching the first, I wonder if it's not going to be more of the same, guys. I'll shut up about it for a couple of races until we're sure, until we're very sure. Number 6, Buxtitude. Buxtitude sure came back better at 4 than she was at 3. My goodness. Flashed speed, much improved speed, and ran a good race, and then came back to parlay that into a victory. Those claimers are grossly inflated, 25,000 maiden claimers, no question about that. And when Buxtitude won from behind the pace, I'm not so sure she's really got a passing gear. That was a shorter race, and also the leader of that, Echo Vision, will make a closer out of another weak horse. That's how soft Echo Vision is, quick but soft in the late stages there. So that's not really Buxtitude's true style. If Buxtitude is to win this, Buxtitude is going to pop to the lead and try to make every polo winner. I think that's pretty obvious there on paper, correct? Does drop considerably in class from an allowance that contained way better horses than these. Still not sold on Buxtitude. I'm going to skip Luminique for a minute, get back to him because he's a little unique in this field. She is, and that she might be a strong finisher here. Intelligent. Broke maiden in 28th try, and that was on a clear lead. So I'm supposed to view that as bogus because this horse had never shown speed before and needed the lone F trip to triumph. Did Intelligent there. I don't put anything past Emzik and Barrios. I really don't. Maybe the speed's for real. Maybe the horse can come right back and run well again. And again, that's why they call them off-turf races and put the asterisk, because they're not too tough to win. And Intelligent is at least the widest potential pace horse in this race. And from what we've seen the last couple of cards, there's a lot to be said for that. And there's my man Anthony, like our host. I grew up in Mountaineer, raised 20 minutes south on Route 2. Weirton, we talking about? Anthony? Fallensby, something like that? Yeah, maybe Fallensby, huh? Nah, maybe not quite as far south as Fallensby. I too know Waterford Park, even golf there many, many years ago. They had a beautiful little, they call it executive, par 3 course on the grounds of Waterford Park for a long time. Finally tore it out for all the improvements they made to the property and reconfigured things. They were going to do a lot more too when Ted Arno was the owner, because he did not just speak in empty platitudes and promises. He's a guy that, to my experience, always did what he said he was going to do, but he never got around to some of his grandiose plans for Mountaineer, because he got into that well-publicized back and forth thing with his spouse about who owned the track and whatever went on, and then lost control and had to sell it and try to get it back. I wish he would have, because he was a visionary, a true visionary, Mr. Ted Arno. Anyway, I digress. Number 7, Luminique. This is kind of puzzling to me because Luminique's dirt races here aren't good. They're just not good. But the turf races are much, much better. Differentia's a good grass horse, and Luminique was 4th there. And then Luminique ran another decent buyer, won a fast closing 3rd on the turf on July the 13th there. So this horse is the only semblance of a finisher or a passer of opponents. And check it out, as Luminique came last to first to break maiden at 6 furlongs on dry dirt, faster to Delaware back in June. I don't know if we can add 1 and 1 and get 2 here, though. Can we take Luminique's recent form and look at that dirt win and just kind of cobble them together and make this horse a good dirt contender from off the pace tonight? I don't know if it works like that, because Luminique's local dirt races just aren't good. And it's been a while since this barn tasted victory, too. And I'm checking it out, and Imprudent is the favorite at 2-1. A butterfly effect is 7-2 here from the one post, from the dreaded one post. Because of those two dirt wins and the turf to dirt thing, this guy's horses just don't fire at all this year. Ken Knudsen, and this horse has kept state restricted competition and has not done a good job of that. Might be another prospective closer, though, and gets Parker. I don't know about 7-2 there, though. I do not know about 7-2. And now 6-5 and Imprudent. And 7-1 on Luminique. I'm not shocked if Intelligent wins it, nor am I shocked if Buxtitude wins it. I don't mean to cover all my bases or just put forth empty patter and make a case for every horse in the race. When I got a pointed opinion, you guys will know it. You guys know that. I'm kind of a hot take guy, but normally I got to fake a strong opinion on races that just look hard to gauge to me. And I'm not sure this race is so easy to gauge. 7 is maybe mildly tempting at 7-1, but I don't like his two dirt races here. And how long has it been since this team won a race at Mountaineer, this outfit? Maybe some of you guys out there have a stronger opinion on this, a better handle on this particular race than I do. If so, by all means, have at it. Get to the windows and post your opinion in the comments, please. So I encourage you guys, if anybody had a stronger opinion there than I did, to post it in the comments, ask and ye shall receive. Norman Williams, AKA Lyrics, really good friend of mine, says Quince should be closing with trainer switch. Still would prefer turf, but I've been chasing, so I must continue one more time here and one more time for the turf. So my man gets 10-1 there. Congratulations. Set up for somebody to win it and win it walking. Not too hard to close in that field, was it? And probably with the grain as well. So I get it, the idea for the play. More than I do the idea for the claim, I guess Quince was haltered because of the big class drop last time and because of that smashing debut that saw Quince win going around a ground by 4. First ever outing in Indy, but it run backwards in the last 3 outings here. But Vasquez did right the ship there with Quince. Right the ship to some degree. Again, the bar was really, really low to win that race, especially from off the pace. And there's somebody who I call brother mentioned Old Ascot Park in here. Did somebody mention Old Ascot Park? Oh, yeah. Ace said, plenty old enough to remember our trips to Ascot and Randall as well. My dad used to pick me up at lunchtime when I was in the 6th grade in the wintertime, dead of winter when Ascot ran. And I would skip the second half of school, unbeknownst to my mother. And my dad and I would book through the snow and the wind. And, man, they'd run if it was 5 degrees below and 2 feet of snow coming down. They would still run at Ascot Park. And so we would go up there and usually make about the second, third race or something like that. And I can remember a horse named Great Canadian. The first time we got to Ascot, we're getting out of the car, and there's a horse named Great Canadian who was like 40 lengths in front of the freaking field. The announcers are going nuts. He's running through the snow and the mud and 5 degree below winds and stuff like that. And he had the breastplate on, and he had the big bandages, and he looked like nothing so much as an ancient war horse. Great Canadian. So every wide margin winner I have seen ever since, every one is Great Canadian in my mind. Great Canadian at Ascot Park. My dad was friends with Dory Maxwell when Dory Maxwell was the Dale Baird of Waterford Park, and also won a lot of races at Ascot, although I think Pete Maxwell, his brother Pete Maxwell, was the man, right, at Ascot? I'm digging my man invoking Ascot Park. Great Canadian. A third race mile and a 16th. This is 4,000, never 3. Strong field for this kind of a condition. Although we're riddled with scratches here, as usual, and we're down to 5. Wings of God, the 3-horse. Wings of God wired an allowance race at a round at Mahoning over the cold weather months. And Jamie Poole's much better mountaineer than he is in Ohio. Wings of God, unable to win here, has settled for 3 seconds from 3 main track tries. Wings of God. I don't know if I grade him that highly for any of those tries. He got a really soft lead on June 30th and still loses, but he was coming back at him down the lane. And the horse that beat him got up inside of him, and I think it was an allowance dropper who made an early move into those soft fractions. So Wings of God ran strongly there. Wings of God looks like the speed here. Didn't really run a lot last time on the turf, but he was topped from the get-go by the quick, good grass horse Bosley. So that takes Wings of God out of his game. I'm not going to fault him for the Presque effort either. Although with a couple of previous synthetic placings, maybe he should have performed better at 2-1. I can nitpick some of this horse's losses, like the soft pace that should have had him home free on June the 30th, and the previous history on synthetics that should have stood him in better stead on that all-weather footing at Presque, the Tapeta, on June the 3rd. But still, he does perform at this level and figures to get another soft lead, Wings of God. Pretty good finisher by speed horse standards. Unaffected, chased Wings of God to no avail on June 30th there. And then backed up. Sometimes goes out and vies for the lead, but evidently not fast enough to get the lead from the likes of Wings of God. And then Curlin's in charge. This is not the phenomenal Bug Boy, the talented 7-bug holder. I think this is his dad. I think there is a familial connection there. For whatever reason, Juan Pablo's given old dad a live-looking mount here with Curlin's in charge, procured from Team Asmussen. And Curlin's in charge. Some competitive efforts there. Second at Louisiana Downs. And even the beaten buyer at Lone Star looks good. And how about that 4th at Oaklawn Park? That's tougher stock than he's going to face here Curlin's in charge. This is the weakest assignment of his career, I'm sure. And if you look at the history here, one of his wins is on dirt, and that was Churchill Downs. And he was also a pretty good second for his career Beyer, I think, on dirt at Churchill Downs. Just to bring the history into play here. Juan Pablo liked him enough to send him to Prescott and run on synthetics, even though the horse had shown nothing on all-weather footing before that. So he must like this horse a little bit. And Curlin's in charge, theoretically at least, is going to be buffered 2-3 wide up on the pace, or maybe the track's better. As again, the first race goes to number 10 with a fast closing wide mover second, and the second race straight up goes to a wide closer. Really has the looks of a live invader, does Curlin's in charge here. Klimster. Klimster was hard sent from the inside last time. Just to get his 15 minutes of fame and camera time there. Went out and actually fronted Force of Justice. It cost him dearly. Loses by 17 lengths. He was grossly outclassed. There's no idea why he was even in that race to begin with. Klimster was only 1 for 35 and just never shows speed, except for last time. Semper Anicus on the outside. That wide margin win. I think it's not a big shocker from Semper Anicus. He was favored for one thing, and also he was in a lot of trouble around the first turn of his previous. I loved him there on June the 29th, Semper Anicus. I will say this. He brought along a little friend. Now say hello to my little friend. Briarcliff, who was second, is actually a maiden who was hard sent on a mission there to set the table for Semper Anicus. I'm not sure Semper gets the same kind of help in here. And he's going to have to be something a little more formidable than a maiden stablemate who ended up second to him last time. But from the looks of things, the grain is in his favor. And he is the only non-pace-oriented horse in the field. He's the only closer, right? Semper Anicus. And the course has been pretty kind to closers, too. Three minutes to post. We're still in the paddock there. I'm digging your origin stories, guys. And we'll get to more of those. First, my man Todd says, I was a horror flick. You read it last night with a fam. Yeah, Obsession, it was called. And it was about some guy who buys some novelty trinket in some kind of a curio store or whatever the hell they call it. And it's supposed to grant him one wish. So he wishes. My phone fell. My phone is always cracked and broken. I throw it into golf carts in disgust from like 30 yards away. But anyways, so there's a chick he's really digging. He's head over heels for. And so this punk, this X-generation punk, why any chick would dig him, even under some kind of a spell, is beyond me. But anyways, so this device works. This little novelty 50-cent item works. So she becomes so obsessed with him. It is horrifying. Like she catches him talking to a platonic female friend of his at a parked automobile and comes over, punches through the window, and slams this other chick's head off the steering wheel. Graphic, too, the way they show it, like 95 kabillion times until her face is pulp and they show the pulp. And when she says to this dude, this is how obsessed she becomes. So when she would ask him, which she does like a zillion times, do you love me? And he goes, oh, yes. Oh, yes. Just kind of shaking his head. She says, you shook your head. You shook your head. Bad. Bad news for our sissified protagonist. I'm not sure if I really liked the movie or not. I'm not sure what it was trying to say. They did actually make it kind of scary. It sounds kind of like a dark comedy. It wasn't. It was straight up horror. She became so incredibly head over heels for this guy. I never had that problem when I was younger. Not at all. Not even with my wife. That was kind of a slow burn attraction. If it ever combusted at all. Checking out more of the comments here. My man Kenny Neely says, went to Waterford Park in college with girlfriend, 1986. And let me guess, Kenny, she's not your ex? I could talk like that to Kenny because we're good friends. And we golfed together once. And he really surprised me, man. He's like a ringer. The guy's like a freaking pro. He used to coach people up at golf. Not a guy that looks like an athlete, but man, he can hit a golf ball. And I'm curious, Kenny, that was not a rhetorical question. Is she your ex now? The chick you took to Waterford Park in college? I think it was Pittsburgh Phil, the legendary gambler Pittsburgh Phil, who once said, no man can have a lady accompany him on his arm to the horse races and see that she is comfortable, well fed, agreeably situated, and happy, and still attend to business, which presumably is combing through the racing form and making some wise wagers. So, in other words, I guess my man wasn't just a legendary handicapper, Pittsburgh Phil, but also a misogynist. He didn't want to take a chick to the races. He did not want to do that. Did not want to do that. I think that's what he was trying to say in flowery language, right? Don't take a chick to the races. I've taken a few over the years. And I would not necessarily say those visits ever ended real well. As expected, Wings of God is the favorite. The whole negative rail thing, not quite as impactful at a distance of ground. And I went through this whole deal last week. For one thing, the whole field races more strung out, so the jockeys are more able to pick their respective paths than they can out of a sprint gate that often sees them more imprisoned in their gate pass. And also, if you watch ahead on down the backstretch, the whole field tends to race further removed from the inside barrier. So you can't make quite as big a deal about the bias at a route as you can in a sprint race, but it still comes into play. Oh, yeah, it can still come into play. I can't honestly say that I can see which one of these three prime contenders is necessarily the best value amongst Wings for God. Wings of God, the 6-horse, Ship It In There for Juan Pablo, and the 8-horse Semper Anarchus. I really can't say. If the track weren't somewhat biased in favor, maybe of off the pace types, but at least in favor of wider moves out from the inside, I don't think Semper Anarchus would quite rate with the other pair. But given the grain, Semper Anarchus may well rate with the other pair. I don't know if 3-2 was such a great price on that horse, but he certainly had a hell of a shot there. You could tell that from his form. And also, the way the race played out when the 5 went out and got a big piece, in fact, fronted Wings of God. And then the 6 horse with his tactical speed is going to fall into a swing out around and tip out to the better part of the track and attack at the pre-stretch call. And that was a recipe to win, and he wins it big. Does that particular Juan Pablo Invader, as the 8 horse came with a pretty good move. A little bit unwise to duck down inside, but he's not going to beat the 6 there, no matter how that plays out. And Ho-Jin Lee, my man, it's a very wise comment. There are going to be lots of attractive bias playbacks from the last several days of racing, yet you certainly want to be on top of it as quickly as you can. You don't want to invent a bias, but you want to be first to detect one. But once it gets detected, there's very little value in a track bias until next time when they run back, because you'll be amazed how few players actually know what they're looking at and actually catalog which horses ran against the grain, or remember to downgrade horses that won with a grain in their favor. There were so many times when I did the Mountaineer show that I was pretty sure there was some kind of a bias that had materialized, but I had to be careful on the air because I did not want to prematurely proclaim some kind of a track bias or manufacture one. But if I would have been betting in real time, I would have bet according to a bias that I thought I saw emerging. If you guys kind of get what I'm saying there. You know what's funny? Bias was kind of considered my strong suit when I started to develop something with National Rep as a television analyst. And that was the topic that got me onto the Steve Bick show to discuss track bias. And also, when the topic was track bias, my man Jeremy Plonk and my good friend Joe Christofek made a point of having me guest on their forum called Night School to discuss track bias. I even coined a couple of terms for particular track biases that I'll get around to sharing with you guys one of these nights. Wings of God ran well there, I thought, all things considered. That's a bias opposer you want to watch next time. And a horse that had the grain in his favor, but I still thought ran well tonight because the race flow was not in his favor, was Ramsey in the opener. This is a bad race coming up. No winners twice in 12 months, 3,200 claiming, going a mile. So these are the worst of the worst. Get a lot of the usual suspects in here, baby. When you just start looking this field over from top to bottom. Can't Pay the Toll. How many times have we watched Can't Pay the Toll over the years? Plenty. Plenty. Can't Pay the Toll was second time before last in a reasonably fast race. The horse that's capable, our Cardinal Prince. He cut back in distance. He's been known to run well at 6 furlongs. He didn't fire at all last time. So it's down to the dredges for him. $3,200 tonight for Can't Pay the Toll. Inside post position. So unless Mr. Tapara elects to get out of there, then his chances are going to be hindered. And number 2, Mr. Hoover. Mr. Hoover, he wins his race 2 races a year, but he's getting long in the tooth now, Mr. Hoover. Has been in with some good winners. Matiko, he was second to in a really fast race and thought, just ran off the monitor there, a much better horse than these on May the 19th. So when he drops back to 4,000 next time, he just goes away quietly, kind of like sinking beneath the waves, for the third time. Mr. Hoover. I want to say there's not much speed in here. Mr. Hoover can sometimes pop out there with early foot, but I'm not sure the two post and early foot are what we're looking for, given the way tonight's track has behaved so far, correct? Jura. Jura's who you want to see out there in the engine. If you're going to play somebody from behind the pace, I think that's pretty obvious. Classic King is a clunk-up horse. It's 6 panels. He just doesn't sustain when he goes around the ground. Classic King. That's my simple assessment of him. I better slow down. I'm going to get through this too quickly. And if that happens, we'll go to the comments. That's what we shall do. Still in the paddock, 2 minutes to post, which means we probably have about 10 minutes, to be honest about it. Number 7, Ready for Action. Ready for Action last time. I actually gave him a chance, and I think I said to him in the pre-race, even though he had abysmal form, and he was 10-1 because there were so much in the way of weak speed, shaky speed in there, that somebody almost had to win it from off the pace. And Ready for Action did. Of the ground-saving trip to boot, and he has won at a route. I think he won a route race here, an on-life allowance back in his salad days. Ready for Action, but he is not the kind of last out winner that would necessarily appeal to me a whole lot. I wouldn't say never, but winners like him rarely step up a condition and win right back. Plus, we're tacking on a couple of more furlongs here. Favorite at 7-5, Mission Mike. I think Mission Mike might be the horse you want, but not at that price, right? My mic was off momentarily there, and excuse me, guys. So George W. says, you think the jockeys would check prevailing bias and crack open a racing form to see how the competition runs? Walk in the jockey room at Aqueduct in Belmont, half are pouring over the PPs. They talk at the jocks room. I don't know how many forms are down there. You don't see too many racing forms around Mountaineer. They only have like 5 delivered or something like that over the simulcast center. Everybody looks at the past performance program now at Mountaineer. You do not see daily racing forms. They're a rarity. I used to have a hard time getting my hands on one as an official and to do the show. A really hard time to get my hands on a racing form. Deshaun Parker once gave me a great compliment, a man of his character and his fantastic riding record, once told me that he used to watch my show and take his cues from me sometimes as to how the track was playing. And I think that is quite a compliment. He would watch the show and was very interested in what my opinion was about the grain. So I was always proud of that. Mission Mike, the 8-horse here. Mission Mike. A new shooter gets a long look in a low spot like this. And Mission Mike until you get to the most recent race, and that was on a sloppy track at Laurel. Maybe he hated the stuff. Until you get to the last race, looks pretty competitive at bigger tracks. This is not one in 6-month condition at Tampa, so a higher spot and a higher track. and he runs the kind of speed fig that would win this. And check him out at Tampa for 10 off the claim back on February the 22nd. Oh, he's obviously tailed off, but that goes with the territory when they come here to run as cheap as possible. And one thing you got to look at in cases like Mission Mike, you got to look at the trainer and see their past history in Mountaineer. And this particular conditioner ran 3 here last year and hit for the cycle with a win, a place, and a show. And the second place finish was very competitive, was in a photo. So may well have gone 2 for 3 with a little bit of luck, this conditioner. So Ronaldo Richards is well met when shipping to Mountaineer, as far as I can tell. And there's just so little to beat in here. I could do without the 2 months away since the most recent race. Our Doc number 9 took some early action. They like the post, I'm sure. And they like his history, that 10-length romp and an allowance last June. And he wins at Remington, gets claimed. He's third at Remington. He's third at Will Rogers Downs and gets claimed there. But then he pulls up and they send the 4-turn taxi for him, Equine Ambulance. That's not good. And then he pops up with John Brown of all horsemen. Third start of cycle. So we'll see what's left in the tank tonight with a couple under his belt. Might have needed a 2-turner to get totally fit last time. So he wouldn't shock me, but how can you be real confident in a horse that was pulled up before being sent here and who has missed the ticket in both tries here? I think it's going to be the 8 horse, but I think it's going to be the 8 horse at a really short price. And if he runs up the track, don't come looking for me, because you never know what the condition of these horses are when they come in or off the worst race on their form. And that is often something that goes with the territory when horses ship here from larger venues. Their most recent race is very often their worst race, and you got to sort through it and look for other clues on their form and via the connections as to what you're going to get from that horse here. Because it's never how much ability an invader has, but how much they bring to the table in Mountaineer. So Rex says, I like the 9 best. Raw dirt speed. Good call, Rex. And I'm looking over here, and some of you guys hit the double. Joey Camp, good on you. Code Brown also. My man Code Brown says, I hit the double for 54.80. So nice call, guys. No question about that. The Norse took early money and certainly had the back form that our Doc and probably needed his last race just to get route tight. Tonight, third starter cycle there for our Doc. You know, this guy gets such good prices when he wins. John Brown, you can see he only wins rarely 6%, like 12 for 217, but still it covers the skim with 4 cents to spare. So I'm tempted to say he's setting his horses up for gambles, except 2 of his wins this year were horses coming off the bench. That's not normally how you set horses up for gambles. Usually give them a race or 2 when they come back off the sidelines. So I'm not sure that there's any sinister master plan in play here from the A team, George Papard, to set up a bet on these John Brown horses as much as our Doc was just fully fit and found the field that he could open the lead on. A really woeful field. And ran to a little bit of that back form there too. Maybe somebody knew it. He did take early play there, our Doc. I saw somebody comment, can't pay the toll, compromised by hugging the rail all the way around there. And you would think so. But I'm also going to propose that if Can't Pay the Toll can do that and almost win it, I wonder if we have seen just right there a slight loosening of the negative rail bias, maybe a slight lessening. I don't know. We'll see moving forward, huh, guys? Fifth race is a 6 furlong job. Man alive, the bad stuff just keeps on coming, huh? Just relentless. Not what it is in 12 months. Fillies and mares. 6 panels. I think I said that. And man alive, these horses. Alter the Stars runs third at 5-2. 30 Buyer. 0 for 7 at Mountaineer. Melinda Sanders wins a race like every third holiday. I mean, every third year on a holiday. Vingativa, I don't care that she's a 2-time dirt winner. She hates dirt and was way behind Myra Fleener last time. Myra Fleener is bad, just so very bad. I think somebody had that Myra Fleener race won last night, though, right? In the opener for Don Blankenship, Into the Stars, or I'm trying to remember the name of the horse. But man alive, that was a bad race. Myra Fleener wins going 6 furlongs. Ashley's Ring was claimed actually for $3,200 here and just hasn't done much since then. She was actually an allowance contender in 2025. Boy, that all went south, didn't it? She's likely to chase Vitami here and maybe vie with Stolen Kisses to maybe be in position if Vitami backs up to inherit the lead. Ashley's Ring. Stolen Kisses second. John Brown just won a race. And sometimes when a barn gets hot, that barn is hot. Stolen Kisses, 1 race under her belt now. The back form, not nearly as impressive as what we saw from that winner, our Doc. Stolen Kisses, though, 5 for 26, was 6 times second. So she's been able to run. And went well open in 1 or 2 of those races on form. So she's not out of the question. 5/8 last time she dropped back, but going 6, she's likely to be faster down the backstretch and maybe be second or third to Vitami. And maybe hope to inherit the lead if that one backs up, huh? And Vitami always backs up, it seems like. And this course has not been kind to weak speeds of Vitami's brand. Another John Brown horse, though, that we see. And Vitami went 5/8 last time, did not show her customary speed. She's getting long in the tooth. That was a 5/8 race, though. You put her back at 6, and she's probably right back out there on a loose lead winging. Vitami. Oh, for the mountain, I'm pretty sure. Bella Valencia, I'm not going to look at her. I don't care how bad a field it is. And then Miss Fort. You guys never did tell me what you thought of my idea to record some audiobooks on a series of videos to be posted here on my Dungeon YouTube channel. I'm thinking about Dracula, for starters. Not to interfere with my horse racing thing here and not to detract from my attentiveness to my preparation for this broadcast. Not at all. Just as something a little bit different, I'm thinking maybe. And if I did it, is it better if I try to affect the voices? A different voice for every character, or just read it? Just read it straight in my voice. Miss Fort on the outside. I saw where somebody liked Miss Fort in the comments, and I like Miss Fort a little bit too, possibly if the price is long enough, because somebody who was really bad to begin with and in good form, but maybe somebody who's in bad form with better back form, if that makes any sense, is going to win this. Somebody that doesn't figure to win a race is going to win this. And it could be Miss Fort. I don't like the long layup, though, man. She's away almost 2 years. And it's almost like she wanted to retire the way that she's come back to the races. Dennis Cluley usually figures them out, though. And Miss Fort, she's got 4 wins over the mountain, Maine. She likes 6 furlongs. She's out there where the track has been good. And it has not been unkind to closers either, despite us having just watched our Doc open a big lead and stay there. And the first race was wired too, was it not? But I'm looking at these forms and I just can't pump life into these horses. My man, Lyric says, straighten your voice. I'm not supposed to say. So I'm not supposed to say, welcome. I am Dracula. No, that's hideous, right? That's horrendous. I could do better than that, though. Doesn't sound too scary, does it, or threatening? How about this? Welcome. I am Dracula. Now, that was better. Now, Lyrics, that was better. Anthony says, question, do we get better horses or worse horses in the summer than in the fall and winter? You know, when I was there, and a lot of the racetracks have rearranged their schedules a little bit, we used to get better horses in the summer, and only because turf was our whole card. It's their whole card now. So it's the turf races that attract the best invaders and that are the most competitive. So I think turf maybe makes the summer season the most attractive at Mountaineer, which is kind of a summer place to begin with. It was one of the first nighttime tracks a long time ago. But I'm going to add a caveat. Aside from turf, when I was there, our best action used to come in the wintertime because that's when a lot of the other tracks would close and when we would get a lot of horses that were still in good form shipping in. Although now that Mahoning has opened and they kind of siphon horses away from the mountain after they open in October, so that kind of kills the wintertime action a little bit at Mountaineer. So overall, yeah, you're probably talking about summer. Good question, by the way, my good man. Anthony says, Big Lon Chaney guy here. Did you ever see him in, what was the Western, Great Western, High Noon? He was so miscast as an aging sheriff who showed a little yellow and would not accompany Gary Cooper. To take on the guys who just got out of jail. Can't remember their names. That's a great movie. High Noon. Yeah, he seemed miscast to me in a Western. Lon Chaney. It was Lon Chaney Jr., right? Have you guys seen our previews on the upcoming werewolf movie from the same guy that did Nosferatu, the most recent Nosferatu, which was so just melancholy and bleak. It would make you want to slit your freaking wrists. Not even scary, but just bleak and dark. Well, the werewolf movie, which I think is going to come out around Christmas. Ho, 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 Merry Christmas. It is freaking grim. Try to remember this guy's name that did Nosferatu and is also the guy that did Werewolf, the movie that's coming up. Has anybody seen The Odyssey? I think you should stuff your cheeks with cotton or wool. Isn't that what Marlon Brando did in The Godfather? To affect the elderly voice and the kind of a growl. I don't know if I'm that devoted to my art. You know what I mean, man? You hear what I'm saying? Like a Brando, Dracula. That's good action, man. You guys are hilarious. I got a Godfather golf joke. Marlon Brando, Godfather Golf Tournament. Michael, you were correct to drag your playing partner into the woods and assassinate him. But penalize yourself 2 strokes. Because no matter what these peasant Avante think, we're not golf cheats. Buzzini's a pimp. He could never have outdriven Santino off the tee. Give yourselves 10-foot gimme putts. Drop another ball when you shank one. But woe be to the man who hits an extra mulligan from the tee. That I will not permit. That I do not forgive. That is not a good Marlon Brando. Not at all. It was Into the Night who won the first race last night, I am now informed. I'm going to take a quick look at the tote board here. I did not see any tremendously misconceived price points tonight, and you really can't go fishing for those or call out the morning lines maker. Quite as often we get these cards scratched to pieces when they come off turf that invalidates the line to begin with. And then somebody scratches in these other races that how can I call the guy out for a price point that I know sucked to begin with when it's going to be different anyways after the race gets riddled with scratches. I think you guys know what I'm talking about there, right? Vingativa is 7-2 from the one post, huh? Alter the Stars is 4-1. Tommy is 3-1. Somebody wants to lead, at least to see their colors out there. In this case, red and white stripes are flying. And on the outside, Miss Fort is 7-1 to return to some kind of form, enough form to beat a really bad field, which would take in this case, what about a 32 buyer speed fake is about all it would require, right? I'll check back with you guys after the race. The running and results of that race I thought were kind of random. If you found Vingativa, then good on you. You're a better handicapper than I am. I didn't like the race. I can make a compelling case that nobody could win or deserve to win that race. My big takeaway, I think it's pretty obvious, and I suspected it after Can't Pay the Toll ran big from the one post when hugging Wood all the way for a full route of ground about 25 or 30 minutes ago. I think the grain has definitely changed. Vingativa was inside for the bulk of that journey and then tipped out only at the 11th hour. And you may have noticed that Ashley's Ring dispatched the seemingly faster Tommy when racing down closer to the rail. And that's the first race I can remember in a few days, in several days, in which a horse pinned down much closer to the rail outdueled an equally fast opponent who was buffered out from the inside. So I think that the track is definitely fair now, much more fair at least than it was. And maybe the negative rail boogeyman, for whatever reason, has been banished out there, but definitely a different trend the last couple of races, guys. That's my big takeaway from our fifth race there. So we've got 3 to go. Let's try and capitalize on this newfound opinion that the surface is probably fair. This is 6 furlongs. Never 4 nominators in 6 months. 5,000 claiming. Okay, mixed condition we're talking about. I was looking a lot at Poppy's Pride. I know this horse really well from Austintown, from Benton Mahoney there. Poppy's Pride is a really strong speed horse. Other placings for almost $500,000. So Poppy's Pride's been a good horse and is not too old to come to the mountain and make some noise. Poppy's Pride, claimed by a pretty decent outfit there at Mahoning on March the 2nd. Scallon's better than his 5% hit rate on the season, might make you believe. Halted this horse, though, from Karen Vecchio. And Karen Vecchio is a tough nut to crack. She is really hard to improve on, and sometimes you're going to get the booby prize if you jump it and claim one from Karen Vecchio. The thing with Poppy's Pride is Poppy's Pride sometimes misses the break a beat or two. So that is a professional liability for a speed horse like Poppy's Pride, who in here, when you look at this lineup, should probably still roll to the lead. Now, has not run since March. Now, you're caught 60 days in jurisdictional jail when you claim a horse in Ohio. This has been more than 60 days for Poppy's Pride. Now, I looked up every one of Steve Scallon's winners. I've known this guy for 30 years, 35 years. I looked at every one of his winners since he came, took his own license out at Mountaineer, like year before last or whatever. And he did show a couple of occasions where he would win with a horse that had been off like 8 months, 7 months, stuff like that. So it's possible that he'll have Poppy's Pride ready. And Poppy is not in any lower than what he was claimed for. So I can't knock the placing here, the placement for Poppy's Pride, who I think is a big-time player. But when I handicapped this race, when I looked at this race, I started with a supposition the rail was probably not going to be good. And I wanted to bet against Gavia, who's on the inside. Now, that is maybe out the window after the last couple of races that we watched. So if you put Gavia back in play, then Gavia looks like a handful for this field. Gavia, with the SoCal background there, Delmar, obviously has some issues, was claimed for 20, dropped down to 62.5 immediately after, so this horse won't hold together forever, but comes back and wins well, and then returns on the class race. Probably never should have been favored, and that's 75. It was a deep field, and there were some better horses in that race. Spidey War for one, who was coming down in class. And the thing about that race is Spidey War is a pretty nifty pace stalker. And when he falls out of there in front at a 23 flat clip, which is pretty slow when you're bound for 5.5 and 6 flat, your chances to beat him are non-existent. You're not going to get by Spidey War. And check the final 16th there. There's an old expression. If you watch the last 2 minutes of an NBA game, you've seen the whole entire contest. 5.5 furlong races are a little bit like that. If you clock the last 110, you can get a pretty good read on what happened out there. And Spidey War, not even 6 2/5, more like 6 1/5. To fly from the black and white circled pole to the wire from the 16th pole. So there's no way Gavia was going to gain much ground on that. So that's a good performance from Gavia. Now, tonight, I would say, moving back out to 6 furlongs, Gavia coming out of that 5.5 and out of a pretty fast pace, 6 panels the time before, I think as a player to be out there and get some really aggressive position from the inside under the Gron. Gavia, who I think deserves to be favored. And the only way that I wouldn't say that is if the track was still negative rail. I don't think it is necessarily after watching the last couple of races, guys. And they're in the paddock 3 minutes to post, which means we have an eternity. And Gavia is 6-5. And the powers that be will not miss. It will not be lost on them because there was some bias baked into their bets the last couple of race cards. It will not be lost on them that the rails looking a lot better after the last couple of races. The movers and shakers that affect the wind pull. They're going to pick up on that. Believe me, they will pick up on that. Lomachenko reclaimed there by Jay Bird, and he likes this horse. And you can see where Lomachenko was trying time after time after time. Turf, dirt here, Mahoning at the other than allowance condition. Jay loves to keep cracking after that first introductory allowance race, hoping to catch a soft field. It's never worked for Lomachenko, who's got limited experience at 6 furlongs. What he is obvious. He's a front-running route horse, guys. Lomachenko. He's been away since March. I'm not real big on Bernardini horses that have not been to the races more recently than that. Lomachenko's 7-1. Best case scenario, he's got fresh legs, can actually flash sprint speed with those fresh legs. And he has been known to show sprint speed on occasion before. And there is not a whole lot of speed in this race, with the possible exception of Poppy's Pride, who might be a little bit up in the air since he's been away, since he's in new hands, and since he doesn't always nail the standing start. I don't want to overcomplicate this, but that's kind of my take on Lomachenko here. I'll skip it on down Road to Stardom. Never liked this horse. It's kind of like Al Pacino says in Scarface, when the big boss, when the big drug king blows up his partner in the helicopter, and immediately Scarface goes to plan B and says, I never like him. I never like him. Well, I never liked Road to Stardom. I'm going full Scarface, Al Pacino. It was Murray Abraham, right, who played that role and played it really well in Scarface, correct? Is that movie a classic, a modern classic, or is it a little too disjointed and cheesy? We'll talk a little bit more about this race after the post-parade, guys. Boy, Artie, my boy, that is just an old complaint of players that the longer price of an uncoupled entry often wins. And that's one reason some joints began to couple them up a long time ago to kind of tamp down that kind of mischief, my man. And also, so one horse can't run interference for the other and they race a separate interest. That's another reason for that too. I don't have a stats on it or anything like that, but I can tell you this, it's amazing how often the same trainer runs first and second in the same race because they got them all loaded up to crack, both horses. My big thing is a former official, and I ran a racing office for more than 3 decades, trained hundreds of racing officials, supervised hundreds of racing officials, worked all the jobs, and was well respected as a racing official, believe me, before I ever took to television. But anyways, my big beef with the dual entries in a race is usually they don't run both horses. Usually one of those horses is just a device to fill the race for the other runner. And when those entries would come across my desk and I'd see one guy put 2 in, I would do a double take to make sure they both fit the race. And he wasn't just screwing with me and trying to fill the race with one of them already earmarked for scratching. And that's not unique to Mountaineer. That happens everywhere on the planet. I'm not talking about a school. I'm not naming names. I'm not singling anybody out. And it's almost impossible to prevent, to ward off, and to abolish, because a lot of times you have to kind of look the other way because you need the warm body just to put out an overnight. And I'm just getting right down to brass tacks for you guys and telling you how it is. Going towards the Gavia's even money, and that could well go lower here, guys. Could well go lower. A Puppy's Pride, no big value, well accomplished. The apparent speed of the race, and he's 3-1. A Big Producer is 5-1. I thought that was a negative drop that he took last time. Big Producer. It was actually up closer than usual on a modest first quarter. No excuse for him last time. I can tell you his good races weren't quite as good as you might think because he used pro rail biases, rare pro rail biases. I think on April the 20th and also May the 19th. So this spring on dry footing, sometimes the rail was a better part of the track. Big Producer is a 5-1 up there. Although I've never correctly predicted performance from any Terry Crago horse. I just never been in tune with him, in sync with him, or able to outguess this guy. Just never, never, never. And I mean never. Single odds on the outside horse. Talked about this guy hitting for the cycle from 3 starts last year, but his entrant earlier, who went off favorite, is still out there running. So not a good sign for Belton Brooks, who's got some pretty abysmal past performances. They're correct. That is my take on this race, guys. We'll get yet another read on the inside from Gavia. A bias can be a very tough call, guys. The leader stayed wide there, the 6 and the 5, as if they thought that was the better part of the track. Tough beat for those of you on Poppy's Pride, who looked like the breakaway speed in there. And has had such a good career. He's a hard-nosed horse. I know him really well. The 2-horse, Lomachenko, he's not going to be my first option there. He's got almost no experience going 6 furlongs. I've never seen him pass a horse, and he hadn't been to the races in a while. I guess the reclaim was the angle there on Lomachenko. He was not on the inside, even though we got up inside those 2 leaders. They were way out towards the crown of the racetrack, and he was out in about the 3.5 path, I would say, throughout the home stretch, and probably from about the 3/16 to the finish there, for whatever it's worth. So I guess Jaybird had a reason to reclaim Lomachenko. Don't forget, we got that ratings handicap as race number 8 tonight. Optional. Can go for a claiming price or else fit the ratings. Part of that. 7th race is West Virginia bred. These are never 3s or never 4s. The never 4s, the 3-time career winners, have to go for the claiming price. And those are the ones that usually have the advantage, even though they're in for the tag in a race like this. We're going 5.5 furlongs, and case can be made for a few of these. As a matter of fact, I think a mare is now the favorite to beat the boys. Shotgun Margaret off a big figure last time, and a Facile Victory. There was so much weak speed to set it up for her there that she almost had to win that on July the 6th. Previous time she got no chance in a very fast grass race to much higher class horses. And before that ran well at Charlestown. So Shotgun Margaret, and I've said a million times on the Mountaineer feed that turf races, 440s, and West Virginia bred races are the 3 shots that fillies have to beat the boys. So it might not pay to be too sexist here and disconsider Shotgun Margaret right off the bat. John Schuller's won a lot of these races too, and he is twice represented in here. Sorry, guys, going to the nostril. Boy McMichael used to hate that when I do that on a show because I got no couth sometimes. You know what she would literally do? She would, let me get a piece of paper. When I would have to go to the nostril, she would take her program and go like this. Right on the air, man. Right on the air. She'd do this. Also had this thing with my tea. I carried jugs of tea around, gallons, stuff like that, half a gallon. And sometimes the shit would turn green because it had sit so long under the simulcast desk. So I'd be too lazy to walk down the hall and get a glass of water. And so I just take a big old swig of it anyway, you know? And oh man, alive. She'd be doing, I kind of did it to mess with her. So she'd be doing this, man, so she couldn't see me. I think there were a lot of times she wished that she couldn't see me, even in her peripheral vision there. You know what I mean? Okay. Schuller's also got the 1-horse in her Union Branch. And Union Branch was a snappy winner last time and came from way back next to last on a course that was speed favoring. But the speed quit anyway, Red Roscoe. Union Branch ran a career buyer there. So good on him. I can't say that I saw that coming because I thought he used a pro rail bias to his advantage when he was second there on June 2nd, Union Branch. But that could have been a breakout race for him. And he is one of the never 4s in here. And those 3-time winners are the ones that I'm looking at. Tups to take topped some pretty quick opposing speeds last time. He was looking for a place to lay down, though, in deep stretch. There was kind of nobody coming. Tups to take. I don't know if we're to the point where inside speed's what we want to do, but we did see a couple of races that strongly indicated that it might be okay to go back in the water and bet a horse down close to the inside. AOK, number 3. Strange case is AOK, guys. AOK, the rare West Virginia bred that won an allowance race at Mahoning, and they don't write West Virginia bred races over there. Kind of like Abundant Energy. This is like Abundant Energy Light, but whereas Abundant Energy is just going on to decimate foes and get better and better. AOK's really regressed because when he comes back here against West Virginia breds, he's supposed to have a field day. First time out, I get it. He's in with Hero's Man, an older horse, and he's topped, so taken out of his front-running style. Hero's Man, like a 25-time winner. I get it. But next time, at 20 cents on the dollar, how does he lose? After getting on top a unit by the second call at a mere 5 furlong distance. He's just not as fast as he used to be. and not as good as he used to be. Can he spot the lead that's up to take and still win it? Maybe cruise up into second around the far turn? Maybe. But how short a price do you want to thread the needle like that with a horse that's obviously deteriorated and a horse who was 1 win shy of the permissible number in here, huh? I think you guys get what I'm saying there. Number 4, Dembe Zuma was claimed by Jamie Poole from Chris Carlisle. Chris Carlisle is not a good horseman to mess with because he knows his stuff. This horse was claimed, I think, in the first selling race of his career. He didn't fire. That set a bad tone. I do like his race before last, though, in that 12-5 starter to much better horses, Abundant Energy and Zealous Storm. And he could trip out well to move into about third around the far turn behind the 2 and the 3. Number 4, Dembe Zumba. Prince Jeremy looks overmatched to me. Shotgun Margaret we talked about. And she's definitely a player, even though a mare. And on the outside, Giacomo Casanova. He's 2 for 18 at the Mountain. And has been in with some good competitions. Zealous Storm and a Hero's Man. And even last year, Connect the Dots. And he's in the money in all 5 of his 5.5 furlong races. Is Giacomo Casanova. Sometimes hangs a little bit going 6. He'll get a clean trip out there, although I'm not sure that the Pro Wide thing is as pronounced as it was. And I'm not sure what to make of his last race because he didn't fire a jump. And he's too fresh to do that. Third start of cycle, he's supposed to fire, guys. He's supposed to run there. So I found out on the matter of my wife's blown up engine because there was no oil in the car. I swear they didn't put it in at all. So I checked it out, and we bought the car used, and it has 75,000 miles, and it's still under like secondary warranty. And they told me to get my mechanic to call them and lodge the claim. So what happens when he tells them there was no oil in the freaking car? Are we automatically at fault then? We've got a receipt. We had oil put in it like 2 months ago, so that should be good, right? And the check engine light never came on. Can they screw me out of covering a new engine is what I'm wondering about, guys. And it's a big deal because I'm not working now. And a new engine is pretty freaking expensive. As the field is now exiting the outdoor paddock, the outdoor paddock has been changed since I used to hang out there before I became a racing official. They made it bigger, and they walk the horses the other way now, I guess for camera reasons somehow. Always looks so awkward to me when they walk in that direction. Because I'm used to the other way. Bob Panconi, Hollywood Bob, the Pittsburgh area's biggest horse better ever, I would say. He and I used to hang around in the outdoor paddock in the summertime out there, man. And those are some good memories and some good times. It is the indoor paddock, though, for what it's worth. It is an historic landmark in Mountaineer and the least changed part of the facility. It is actually literally, I think, designated as an historic landmark, the indoor paddock. And I read somewhere and heard somewhere where they can never demolish the place without permission and all kinds of special dispensation because it is a landmark, a state landmark, the inside paddock at Mountaineer. So they're all over Shotgun Margaret here. She's even money, in fact. Off the number last time, the number and the outfit. Interestingly enough, the other Schuler horses completely disrespected on the board right now at 13-1. The indoor paddock is the least changed part of the facility. I think I said this a couple of weeks ago when I was still working in the racing office. And for some reason, this worked best. My go back in time thing mentally on dark fall days, maybe winter days, early afternoon when I'm still in the office, I would slip away from my downstairs dungeon desk and go upstairs and sit in the vacant indoor paddock at about the time when the first race would have went off many, many years ago during afternoon racing in the wintertime. And especially on a bleak gray day, I could just kind of shut my eyes and then open them and almost see my dad standing there at the rail. I swear I could. It is the least changed part of the whole facility. Ever seen that chick flick Somewhere in Time where Christopher Reeves, poor guy, goes back in time to find the love of his life again, and he's got to get everything just right and have nothing in the room that reminds him of the current time. That's what I have to do to go to the indoor paddock at Mountaineer, and nothing around me that reminds me of the present if I want to walk back in time. Although I have not been to Mountaineer since I was escorted out, and probably never will again, if we're being completely honest about it. Residual support for AOK. But that is not just buyer money or barn money or pro barn money on Shotgun Margaret. There's some off the base money thrown in there too. Maybe not so much for the grain as for that last one. That seems to be the consensus of the board right now. But I don't think Union Grant should be that high, 14-1. And were Giacomo Casanova to reverse form, you're looking at 6-1 right there. If I had an opinion or planned to make a meaningful bet on this race, I would tell you guys. I am not dodging the issues tonight. I just don't have firm opinions on horses that I definitely want to bet on. So Bob's away. Bob, my good man, says rest assured that we'll try to stiff you if they can. Yeah, I know. And I'm worried about that. We have records of the oil changes. We do have that. And not that it's going to make a hoot of a difference, Bob, but I'm not always the suave, sophisticated, well-dressed, studiously polite, urbane gentleman you see here before you on camera tonight. I can get pretty cross in person. My good man. So Phillies could beat the boys in West Virginia bred races, and she had the big number last time and a good barn, and actually got a pretty good setup because the speeds didn't look real formidable there. A Shotgun Margaret. Pagan tried to find a seam when he turned for home there and stayed cool. And when the seam shuts, he just angles out around. Well-meant Prince Jeremy, who I think overlooked a little bit there, has improved since that claim for sure. Prince Jeremy. Manatee's hit a good trip there, though. That's the best chance he's ever going to get to win a race like that, Prince Jeremy. Just fantastic trip that he set there, and just can't withstand Shotgun Margaret there. Prince Jeremy in the final analysis. So Shotgun Margaret, John Schullerman, he's won so many of these races, and she's so much play there. Did Shotgun Margaret, huh? 8th race ratings handicap. I have no idea why horses like these have to run in a non-claimer. I'm not sure what the theory is here with a lot of these horses. At least they're in good recent form. And some of these connections might have shot for a starter, arguably, perhaps a little bit. I don't know. Anyways, these have to fit a certain ratings parameter with the new Equibase ratings, or else be entered for $4,000. And oddly enough, two of the horses that are entered for $4,000 still fit the ratings. Honestly, and Revenue Train there. So I can't make heads or tails out of that. Interesting allotment here. Interesting assortment here. Legacy Trail, 2 of the last 3 by resounding margins, and was up close to the pace and hard sent unwisely and had to take back and then rebid on June 21st was the best. And then I got some speeds out there winging it to set the table on July the 8th. The big issue is the one post with the Legacy Trail. I don't know if it's still bad in there or not. We've had conflicting evidence tonight. Let's just say that. I will also say that the way Ramjeet rides and puts his head down and guns, even on a horse like Legacy Trail, with no real plan to work out some kind of a clear voyage, then Legacy Trail, as a rider, it doesn't really fit the one post. I'll say that. Waterworks, number 2. Waterworks, very accomplished, is beaten way better than these and was really sharp with a good number after laying down fast splits on June 9th in victory there. Was Waterworks. Waterworks comes back, though. And I know Larimar is supposed to smash Waterworks to the curb, but Waterworks just did not run much off the claim, though. That's a little bit disturbing to me for Waterworks, who's faster at 6 furlongs, but looks like a pace player here, even in this 5.5. I think the question is which Waterworks shows up and how is the track still down in there? Stewbold. Stewbold, same owner, but a different trainer than last time. So basically same connections, I would say. Split horses rather nicely to win and beats Legacy Trail, but Legacy Trail was much better than Stewbold was on that occasion. That's a Fancy Fox. I just can't make a player here. Honestly, overmatched, it looks like. And Later Days. Later Days wins a cheap condition race last time and struggled to do it. But she might be interesting, given the barn Treehorn, given her win-type history over the mountain main, and the fact that she may well lead this race. She may well lead this race a couple of lengths around the far turn. Later Days. And Title Defense, I don't like her. Didn't like her last time. No idea what she's doing in here in some kind of a ratings-oriented race. Rockstar Parking, I think, has the highest. The numbers are now scrolling across the screen. I went to the trouble to look them up. Opposite the crowd is scratched. I think Later Days is 39 there, and I think the highest number is Rockstar Parking, who's 49 and barely would qualify, but has to go for the claiming price because would not qualify, I guess, on that 20 to 40 parameter. So Rockstar Parking, based on the Equibase ratings, too good for these horses. But coming in for the 4,000 kind of nullifies all that, correct? Has the best form in the race, if you're looking at those starters from this spring, but loses by 5 as the 8-5 favorite, and then looked off form last time. I know it was a better field, but still looked off form last time. This horse has a nasty habit of sometimes missing the break, so a really complicated horse to read with the deteriorating recent form, Rockstar Parking. I would say nothing is simple in horse racing, folks, and even less is simple about this race. If I knew Legacy Trail was going to be extricated from the inside and get a good clean path, I think Legacy Trail would be very interesting. Likewise, if I knew Waterworks was going to be the old Waterworks, and I had a lot of faith that the inside is okay, as a couple of races made it look tonight, then Waterworks. Later Days, I think, is a chance too. I really do. I think Later Days is a chance. And bombs away. Bob says, yeah, rest assured they will try to stiff you if they can, baby. Somebody said happy birthday to Peter Barry. Yeah, happy birthday to Pete. Did not know this was his birthday. Of course, I never mark birthdays down. The same age as I am. And it's been on how many years? A lot, huh? A long time. Jim Dolan was his predecessor and hated McMichael and me. Used to call us the nincompoops. Jim Dolan. Had a good set of pipes, Jim Dolan, but couldn't call a race like Mr. Peter Barry. Code Brown says, I'm stacked for the last race. Stacked? I did the pyramid in my pick 3. I have 3 horses here. Who do you got? Mr. Code Brown. I think name for his favorite football team and my least favorite. That's okay, though. We don't bring those kind of prejudices here into the dungeon, Code Brown. So who do you have alive, my man? Who do you got? Still in the paddock, but they really dragged the last race, don't they? Boy, did they drag the last race. And that is the famous Basil, who just walked off camera. And he pops up so many times in the paddock because he runs horses to the paddock. This guy's got to be fit because he runs like 5 horses a night to the paddock, probably $30 a pop, maybe more. And gets a stake, I would assume, if his horse wins. And a lot of times he's on the winner. Basil. They run switches too, where they switch a horse back to the pony when the horse comes off the track and make a lot of money. Basil told me a story one time about how he had a dispute with his neighbor, and Basil's out mowing the lawn, I guess with an old school lawnmower. And Basil, and we're going to catch a look at him coming by on the camera here, Basil was a really colorful character in Mountaineer lore. We're watching for Basil now, guys. Dignified name, huh? Where do you hear the story? Is he walking the 7 horse? No, maybe the 8. Yeah, I think he's on the 8. He's got kind of a hitch in his get along, too. Yeah, that's Basil walking the 8 horse. This guy limps and still runs like 5 horses to the paddock every night. Anyways, Basil tells a colorful story that him and his neighbor got in a heated dispute, territorial dispute. Basil's out mowing the lawn and evidently is across the boundary or whatever boundary his neighbor set. So Basil picks up the lawnmower, leaves it on, and goes charging at this guy with a business end of the lawnmower, whirring around with a lethal blade, trying to get the guy with the lawnmower. He's chasing the guy all over the property with an upended lawnmower. Can you even picture this stuff? And there was Mr. Lawnmower Man, Basil, walking the 8 horse. So, Steve, what do you mean, my man, when you say they will be able to check the code and see why the absence of oil? And what if the jack off that was supposed to put the oil in at a large noted purveyor of oil? Or what if he just didn't put any in? If he forgot, it was freaking high. When you're in the Pittsburgh area, you're not supposed to say jack off. You're supposed to say jag off with a G. Ask Kenny Neely that. Jag off. So Waterworks, based on her body of work and that superlative performance, stiff pace, good number, two back is the favorite. They're going to excuse the fact that Larimar just curb stomped her because Larimar's that good. Larimar has crushed 3 straight ratings handicap races. Yeah. Larimar's a bona fide $25,000 horse too. Lynn Cutno's a competent horseman. I would expect him to do okay with the horse haltered from Mike Baird. But as is the case with Rockstar Parking, but not to the same degree, Waterworks is not always that quick out of the blocks in any race shorter than 6 furlongs. I had a crystal ball and I could see the one horse's trip and I could see how the 2 breaks and how the 9 breaks, I'd be a lot happier. Stewball, just kind of generic possibility, not sexy, but a possibility. In later days, I wonder if some possibility exists for Barrios to do a Barrios and a race that really needs a leader and outbreak the gate 2 or 3 lengths as he is sometimes wont to do. Hey, good luck to you guys. And some of you are alive in the horizontal, and I wish you nothing but the best. And be well until we meet again, compadres. You're always welcome in the dungeon. And as I've often said, I consider you guys my friends, not my viewers. So until Sunday, Mark Patterson out.